Good question, and no. It's actually sometimes a healthy thing for me to step away. I am not the day trader, but I will say I probably should take a look at the prices today, just to kind of get a good idea. But I could probably throw a guess out there. I'm going to say Bitcoin's at 41, ETH is at 3.6, 3.7, maybe closer to 4. I'm not sure, but yeah. Um, It has been a couple of weeks, and I know it's gone up, and it actually went up and back down again because I see because Coinbase. Sometimes I do still have Coinbase pretty live and active on, as far as sending me notifications. Why I don't know. I just never turned them off. I guess. Yeah, no, they do, but they do send notifications late. But as you notice, like I'm not a day trader, so my desire to look at it's almost the opposite. I get the opposite out of it, as opposed to people that want to know what it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I think that's healthy for people to see that there's a variety of different type of people that are here. You know what I mean? Because I think when they look at it from the outside, they might all see like people like kind of like they see the stock market, like people running around like with their heads exploding 24 hours a day, looking at these prices, going, "What's happening? What's happening? Like, is it moving? Is it moving?" And these little bubbles moving all around, And that is some people, but yeah, that's not everybody, and that's okay. That's a good point. I do the same. That's a really good thing, but I will bring yeah, how far off was I, though? Good, nice it, land it. Hey, I wasn't far off. Nope. It did. Oh, okay. And not and not in relative form as it usually does to Bitcoin. I'm interested in that. We'd have to go look at that to understand kind of what happened there. I how are you long term on ETH? I okay. Mm, yeah. Yep. Mhm. Mhm. Yep. I could list them. How they gonna adopt? Yeah. And I I sometimes feel like I can visually see it happen and it's happening as I can see it. And that doesn't mean I can see the future, but it is very much expected if you know a lot about like adoption and human behavior, that this is like the masses amount of people, one, won't adopt it ETH, and two, should not adopt it ETH. Okay. And I say that because you can't, if you have that many people adopting to ETH becomes so intangible,
It's
it
overwhelming.
becomes so expensive to run that becomes just unrealistic to run it. Now, I could take this all the way back to proof of work to proof of stake because I'm obsessed with the difference between the two, and I do not think that there is solid enough logical reasoning why one or the other is used, right? And that seems to be rather like part of the natural progression of the coins themselves.
Absolutely.
So like for example, Bitcoin started, it was proof of work. It worked. They know that people could mine. They know that Bitcoin was able to prove itself and it was able to stave off, a lot of the concerns that they had. So then they built ETH, again, built on proof of work, right? But then proof of stake came out and nobody ever sat down and said, hey, it's probably best if we use proof of work for like currency and proof of stake for like usability, because if we do that, that actually makes sense. There's value in mining, right?
There is.
And there's value in staking. There's value in both of them, but they cannot be used intermixed in the way that we're doing it. So I think natural progression is for it to play out as ETH will not stand the test of time in the way that it's doing now. So I don't know what its value is going to be over time. I can't predict that, but I can say that its value and use is going to change drastically. Yep. I'll give you one more reason before I pass it off is like,
feel free.
When they're building software and developing out these blockchain, right, they're doing so slower than the market is moving.
Okay.
So a decision that they made 6 months ago to develop and build on ETH could be a bad decision today.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies that are getting in today are influenced by previous markets on, oh, well, there's more being built on ETH right now. So therefore, it's probably best if you see what I'm saying? That's a business decision that some people are making that is actually maybe not the right business decision.
Okay.
Because the business decision for their model could absolutely be on proof of stake. I just don't think there's a lot of people that trust a specific proof of stake blockchain enough yet to make that their like ETH.
Okay. Yeah. I get that.
Opinions that I'll just throw out there.
Sure. So along the lines of running our podcast well, I wasn't audible for the first few minutes this time. Okay. So I am now.
It does work.
I'm just going to recap what I was talking about before. And so we were talking about price action, and Lisa was a little ways off. We talked about kind of what was happening there in the market, and you can infer from what I was showing on the charts. And we kind of got into talking about how I'm not in ETH, and I don't use ETH because of a lot of those reasons that Lisa was just talking about, and usability and ease of access for everyone and individuals. So with that, Lisa made a lot of really good points, and you know what? Let's move on to our couple of news stories here. While we're both audible, this time with sound. I'm gonna keep putting that. I swear to God. Yes. So, do you want to go first with your story? Can you screen share today, or?
No, but I'll prepare that for next time.
Okay, no worries.
I'll move it onto this computer, and I do have it over here open because I tend to spend more time on my.
If you want to shoot me the link, I can pull that up for you.
I absolutely can. I can do it in like 1 second too. Just a second.
Let's do it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the story about JP Morgan, which, as we know, decentralization is essentially trying to get away from the centralization that banks like JP Morgan, Chase have created. This too big to fail sort of disgusting nature of their business that allows them to reap wild benefits from our money, and then claim that they're not. You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. To me, I'm not a big fan of the obviously the centralization that we've seen over the past whatever, but the story in and of itself is that JP Morgan becomes the first major bank in the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that, I don't know if that's actually a true statement. I feel like another bank has come in there
Yeah. So
before
what's the
this.
headline of that article
The
you're reading?
headline is that they've actually, in JP Morgan invests, that they are going to open a store in Decentraland.
Okay.
So the goal is, now why Decentraland? I don't know. That's something we could look at and talk about. But yes, they decided to own a flagship store, kind of like Samsung did in Decentraland.
Yeah.
And they call it a $1 trillion market opportunity. $1 trillion.
Okay.
So I find that a very interesting number that they chose. And so, yeah, there's a couple of things I think we could talk about there. Is obviously they see value in it. How they get to 1 trillion is something I'd be really interested to hear from them. And
Agreed.
maybe they'll tell us, I don't know, but that's the story of today. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I brought it up secondarily to talk about the backlash it may get from the people in centralization becoming frustrated that, like, obviously the goal is to get away from these banks. So what are you doing?
Okay.
Do I want a
Yeah.
bank inside of Decentraland, inside of decentralized currency? It doesn't make any sense. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Interesting. So I'm just taking a quick read here, just to kind of fill people in, what what this really means, as far as what she's talking about, is that they have bought a piece of property in Decentraland, and they have built out their metaverse building, so you can virtually physically walk into their building just like it were a bank. It's the largest bank in the U.S., J.P. Morgan. I mean, everybody knows who they are. Again, what she's talking about with the $1 trillion opportunity, who knows where they came up with that number. But so there is a visitors lounge situated in Metajuku Mall. I'm not familiar with that space yet. You're greeted by a roaming tiger and a digital portrait of Jamie Dimon. Okay, first of all, we need to stop right there. And if you are listening, JP Morgan, please take down that portrait. That is the last thing I want to walk into. The tiger, awesome. Please take down Jamie Dimon. We don't want to see more of him, especially people in the metaverse. We're already there trying to get away from him, like you're saying. Uh,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah. So
They're
and
already trying to, like, taint it, and nothing's going to stop this from happening. I mean, that
no,
is decentralization. Nothing's going to stop them from coming in, but I think the people inside of crypto need to say,
no,
need
thank
to be
you.
willing to determine how far they're going to let them take it.
Absolutely. And it looks like they're saying, if you walk upstairs, they can watch executives' presentations on the economics of cryptocurrency. And while that may be interesting, and I absolutely would like to hear that,
Be interesting.
interesting is the right word. I do not know that it would be a good source of information for people
Right.
in the metaverse, people who are out here trying to learn how to actually make money using cryptocurrencies and whatnot. But it'd be really interesting to hear what they're saying, because it's probably wrong. These are the people that
I
have been telling
It's a
everyone for the
bank.
last,
Like, how do
yeah.
I know that it's not, like, it could be like what they want the vision of it to be. Like, I don't want to go in there. Like, I'll go in there and listen to it, but with a very
A full bag of salt.
yeah, yeah, that's a
Not just
really
a few
good.
grains, a full bag.
Yeah, I'd be like,
Absolutely.
I'll feel like it's like I'm walking into a conspiracy theory. I'd be like, what are you talking about? What are you telling me? That's very
God,
dramatic, but
right. What other interesting parts? Let's see from this article. So,
well,
I mean,
talking about the fact that they chose Decentraland. I
yes.
don't know why. I would be. I really want to dive into this a lot more. And number one, why Decentraland?
Yep.
Um, of the different types of metaverses. Obviously, Decentraland is
Yeah.
big, but they're not the biggest right now, right? So,
Right.
as far as I understand, sandboxes, and if you look at the the yield, or however much Sandbox is doing, they tend to be at a higher value than Decentraland. So I'm very interested in this choice, more so that because I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So Adidas apparently jumped in. I haven't seen their Decentraland store.
Yeah, that one's
I
supposed to
have
be pretty
seen
big.
Samsung's, and I was kind of like really depressed by it, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Um, I tend to be depressed by these
Yeah.
more so because I feel like it's 2022 and the graphics are so terrible. Like, and
Right.
the builds are so square.
Yeah. Well, and
Like,
that's
you know what I mean? It's like,
I
it's
do.
very, I don't know. And then the characters, like when you go in there and you make a character, I did a video of making my first character in Decentraland, and I was pretty depressed by that too, because I felt like they did not take any time or effort to make any extra like they didn't make like curly hair, like they literally did nothing. So like the I just don't see it. To me making an avatar and a character should be a huge part of what it is that you're doing if
Yeah.
you're going to make a decentralized metaverse. Like it doesn't, don't you, wouldn't you want to be
So I have thoughts
more
about that as
yourself?
well.
Yeah, tell me.
So as far as like the blocky nature of Decentraland, and the overall poor gaming aesthetic, I think really what they first were focused on um, was just building a world with that is on the chain. These aspects that are very specifically on the chain,
Right.
including your avatar's looks and appearance, including the location. And I don't know how much of the data on chain is with their physical environments. I know there's only so much you can put on chain, of course,
Right.
and that whole idea, and that may be a lot of why it is graphically less than what we're used to seeing in a such a how many dollar value is Decentraland worth at
Right.
this
I mean,
point.
that's kind of what I'm thinking. If you were to see this much money going into any other company that was building a software product that was essentially supposed to be an entirely new world, I can't imagine that this is what you would continue to come out with. I
Yes,
mean, it kind of blows my mind because at any other company, that would be a failure.
absolutely.
To, I mean, like, no offense to Decentraland and all these folks, maybe they're like, you expect too much. And that's very well possible that I do. Um, but maybe my
2022.
expectation that there should be more is a good thing because this is not fun. It's not fun. I'm sorry. I've spent a lot of time in Decentraland
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have a desire to go back in every day and do the things because the things are all the same.
Right, and it's clunky is really what
What
we're
else?
getting at.
This would be probably the only new thing that's happened since I went in there
Right.
last. And maybe some new, maybe some new events that there may have been a lot of events
There's
happening
tons
and
of
I probably
events.
missed some
It's just
events, but
so the other thing to speak on, what you were asking or talking about with the avatars. Each avatar actually, I mean, yes, they're gonna give you some basic stuff, some clothes, some hair, some shoes, whatever, skin tones. But one of the biggest things about any of these metaverses is going to be that all of your aesthetics are going to be on-chain assets. They're going to be NFTs, and so of course you're
I
not going
get
to
it.
have those because you haven't bought your NFTs yet. You're not really invested on your
Yeah.
first entry. You're like, I gotta see how this works out before I go out and I spend. And especially on Ethereum, 3 grand on a freaking hat. You know, I it just it definitely is what you're saying. And but if you go over to a couple of the other metaverse worlds, you'd get very different experiences. The sandbox does
Right.
look significantly better, um, as far as I've seen. I really haven't been able to get into them a whole lot. Unfortunately, like while I'm building the stream, while I'm job hunting and whatever, even when I was just working and traveling, like just getting into Decentraland at all, like it's just time consuming for me. But
Yeah.
even to the point where I approached my nephew, who's he's almost 21 now. He's 19 or 20. Um, like I was like, hey, listen, if you guys want to build something in the metaverse, I will buy a plot of land for us, and I just need you to be in there playing the games, building the land, whatever. Like I'll fund you. I don't have any issues doing that. Like, and it what probably would have been a really really good thing as far as investment goes back then. This was
Right.
June or so when he was graduating from high school, and it was at the graduation party. And yeah, I really would have loved to be able to get him in there. And that was also his last birthday present was I gifted him a bunch of crypto and was like, all right, you have to hold this until you're graduated from college. So he already like he started making some trades. He swapped something for profit and went into some ATOM, I think. And I was proud that he was diversifying, and I hadn't even taught him anything about that. Like, so it's just cool to see that was a total side tangent, but
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you though. It really should be more, but until it is built by a game development company as a game with a side aspect of on-chain, functionality, it's
Which is
always
funny
going to be
because
this.
game developers are getting like, what was it, Ubisoft or who was
Yep.
it? I don't know.
Ubisoft is getting in. Final Fantasy would
Well, no,
be.
there was a game developer whose internal like angst from their employees about the NFT, about transitioning their products to NFT was like it became like public knowledge, and they were like not happy
Yes.
about that. I got to find out
I
who
do recall
that
hearing a little about
game
that.
manufacturer. This was just a couple of days ago. What
Yeah.
game manufacturer that was?
I think you're right. It was
But
Ubisoft. Again, I'm just guessing, so don't quote me on that.
yeah,
But
don't quote us on that. But like, yeah, but just to the nature of the fact that their employees were not happy that that game company was trying to put their aspects into NFTs, and I'll tell you why. Because gamers are sick of being
monetized
to literally to death.
Right.
So these games, each of them cost $70. Now they're getting up to 80 and 90 and $100. I mean,
who came out with $100 game?
Oh, many
A
people.
base cost game, not the like limited edition comes with a bunch of random bullshit edition. So base
no,
cost.
you're right. But like, no,
Okay,
we're like,
I had paid
scaling
$100
from 70, 80 to 90 to 100, right?
Okay.
Like, and maybe even 150. But that's not even the start of it. That is just the start of it, right? Like,
Sure.
then you get in the monetization of inside the game itself. You know what I mean? And then things cost money. And imagine transaction fees on top of that.
Again,
Like,
reasons I don't use Ethereum.
I don't like. Are they thinking through this? Like, that's kind of the thing. Like, I would love to sit in these rooms, and it'd be very hard for me to do so silently. Could I be like, "Are you thinking through this?" Like,
yeah,
because yes, there is. People are going to want this to a level, meaning you have to create some value in that. I mean, lots of value for it to be meaningful. Like, I'd be able to wear it around for the rest of my life in the metaverse, right? Or if not, you're really just scamming me out a little bit of money. And maybe people are okay with that because they're like, well, I get this thing for a little bit.
Right. I mean, okay, so one of the things that I've seen
feels very like Web 2 scammy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's something we want to avoid. And that's something that when I consult on especially game platforms and crypto, is something that I really, really try and emphasize. Very similarly to building a board game shop. I consulted on a board game shop several years ago that's very, very popular now and did very well. And so what I was talking to that particular instance of shop was, yes, you should build a board game shop. We need one. We want it. The gamers love them. But you know what board game shops don't do? They don't make money. And that is obviously the whole goal here. So the way to do it, the way that all the shops around here are doing really well, is they are making themselves a restaurant with board games. Right. Bam. All of a sudden, people are coming in, they're buying food, drinks, they are willing to stay longer just because they've got all the things they need. And all of a sudden, oh shit, you need a new game, you need a new card, you need this, that, or for whatever you're doing. And it's this really, really well functioning business model, especially here in the Seattle area. And we've got 3 or 4 of them, and they're just killing it. And including the one I was just referencing. So video game companies are needing to kind of do the same thing, especially when they implement a crypto strategy where, yes, you can have a monetization factor, but, if you're paying for the game, you need to be accessing the whole game. And when you go through and you progress on your level system, your monetary system, anything, you can't be expecting these people to be throwing in money and having this high dollar entry cost just to start playing and to be functional in the game. Sure, You can have, you
That's
know,
literally Destiny 2, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just wanted to put that out there.
exactly.
That's literally Destiny 2, and I cannot believe people still play that, but they
They
do.
love it.
I mean, like, I left after the first time that they like took all the weapons and downgraded them. The literal first time they did that, I was like, no, I'm not ever doing this again.
Oh,
Nope.
absolutely. Well,
Spent way
and
too much
that's
time. I spent money doing this. I'm not doing that again. Like
yeah,
so, but people get in this cycle, but maybe they love it, and I'm not saying they do. It's to each their own. But
yeah.
I kind of hope that we get less scammy, less schemy, and that
Hmm.
people like are able to play games and support those game studios, but not like I don't know. The greed is just
Yeah.
so it's just
Well,
getting out of
and
hand.
on top of that, like monetization of assets in game, even to the point of your weapons and armor,
It's fees
it
upon fees.
well, it needs to be free to interact with by the consumer first off. So
Right.
if you are making a transaction, it absolutely cannot be something that costs the person in game or actual currency unless you are providing them that currency. You go out, you kill a monster, you get 5 gold, great. Then that is okay to spend that 5 gold on a transaction per se as a fuel, you know?
I see what you're saying. You're creating your own fuel that you're burning within the game, so that you're not
Correct.
actually paying out of pocket every time that you're trying to.
Yes.
Yes, I love that idea.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. And there, what you're saying with them changing your weapon stats in that first update or whatever it was, that's kind of one of the big benefits we could be getting from a an NFT implementation into an MMO is that once that weapon has been minted in game, it's not going to change. It is never going to
Yep.
change. It is not
Company can't
something.
go and be like, I think your weapon's a little too like powerful, and we made it too
Yeah.
powerful,
What?
so we're gonna
So
take that away
yeah,
real
we're gonna
quick.
retcon
Like
that,
what?
and oh
Like
my god,
literally, Destiny 2. I just want to like
yeah,
throw it against. If it was a thing, I would throw it against a wall.
absolutely. I mean, you can. We can get you a
They're
copy.
just a really good example of making all of those really terrible consumer developed decisions. And no, they're not consumer based. They were all about us,
I know,
all about
right?
money.
They're
And
taking
so
EA tips. They're just trying to
they're
be EA, and
like, hey,
nobody
you
wants to
remember
be
that
EA.
game that we made 20 years ago? Here it is again, same price, even more. And see these add-ons that we made 20 years ago? Yep, same price as they were
Yup.
then. You were like,
But
what?
I already have a copy. Why can't I just keep playing it?
What?
No, 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 no.
Like, but you're still getting the same value out of it. Okay. Um, but like, what? Your
Yeah,
product's still 20 years old. Like, I don't
it
know.
absolutely is.
No,
And
like at what when do we start talking about like do when do things start like losing their value here?
right.
Like, I guess it's when everybody decides it loses its value.
Yeah. Well, and this is also an NFT solution.
Everybody.
Is that especially with all the digital rentals and such that we're having now in movies and gaming, it's why can't I take the movie I just bought from DirecTV and move it to my new device that I own, even though it's on the same account, you know, things like that where, yes, you bought this video on Amazon Prime, having it as a NFT token, you're like, cool, I want to move it to my DirecTV, I want to move it to my Netflix account, my whatever the fuck. And yeah,
That may never happen, and I'll tell you why.
no, no,
Not
it's
with
not even
somebody
like a
else's
hard question to
content.
ask why. Like it makes sense
Okay, but
why.
not with somebody else's content, and yeah.
I mean, it really comes back to the fact that like we used to be able to buy DVDs and take that DVD to our
It's because
friend's house.
licensing, like I think it all. Well, I mean, first of all, it all comes down to licensing. You don't buy a movie. I mean, I don't know if you guys realize that. You don't buy a movie. You don't buy a song. You don't actually own any of it.
Right?
You don't own it. That's why
Correct.
you can't move it
Yep.
because you don't actually own it. And you are actually only licensing to be able to watch it for the period of time that they say that you're able to watch it for. So if they say you're able to watch it indefinitely, well, that's only indefinitely on their platform, potentially as long as you can move it off. Sometimes some places allow you to purchase it and then move it off of there. So I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but like you're technically licensing your movie and your show. So like that's where it gets really crazy, even with NFTs, is But if I were to own it and own those NFTs and like
Right.
manage the licensing of how that gets distributed, that's when NFTs get really fun.
Yeah, well, and that's what the guy from One Republic was doing with his NFT drop several months ago. Is that like there was a one of one in that
Yeah.
drop, and you own the licensing for that song, and
Hmm.
it went for a couple million, I believe, and which makes perfect sense. How much does a songwriter sell a song to a studio for? A couple million, and they have the rights to do whatever they want that with that song from then on. And you know what? That's
That is
great.
insane.
I
That is
love it.
yeah,
It
that is,
best
yeah,
part is that
100% one for one. Wow.
right? And best part, when you do create those NFTs, if you're not familiar with NFTs, um, the smart contract is a smart contract for a reason, and we use that term very specifically in that you can sit there and you can implement 5% royalties anytime that is
Yep.
moved,
Forever.
or something to that extent, and that's all written hard encoded into the chain. Maybe the actual MP3 itself isn't on chain. It is hosted on a file system.
Yep.
However, the contract that is applicable to what you're going to be able to do with that is right there on the chain and cannot be ever changed. And that's a really, really important thing, that a lot of
And the
people
smart
miss.
contract would technically pay out on its own
It does.
without the needing for a human to interact with it.
Yeah.
So
Never
therefore,
needing an
like,
escrow.
I wouldn't need to go to that dude's association and be like, hey, he sold me this song and now you owe me royalties. That's not how it's going to work. And that's
Yeah.
the fun part about it is if you as an artist can see the value of how you use your licensing in interaction with your fans, things could get crazy.
Absolutely.
Even thinking about like selling your tickets to your live shows as NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
Then once they're at the show, how about anybody that bought the NFT gets first row seats? And then, so like as an artist, those front row seats aren't going to go to scalpers. Then, well, they'll go to immediate scalpers, and there is some value, there is some level of scalping in NFTs. But
Yeah.
whoever owns it by the time of the show is the person that shows up at the show
Yeah.
and gains that experience. But then perhaps from that experience, like say all those people make a video, all those NFT holders make a video at the show, then the artist makes a video that they sell from the holders of those NFTs at the it could you're creating a mutually beneficial relationship with your fans
Mm-hmm.
at a level that has never been seen before. And I think that's what I want to inspire people, like as far as like music, and is to see the value. If you can own the relationship that you have with that licensing in your music and your entertainment, you
Right.
don't have to rely on a third party to tell you how to do it, what to do, and what to do.
Yeah.
That's the fun part.
It
So
really is. And, even being able to, um, at that point, even if you are scalping, even if you are selling tickets aftermarket, scalping it on the street, the artist is still going to get a commission when those
that's
move.
right.
So
And
it's still
every time it
beneficial to the
moves,
artist. Exactly.
exactly. So whereas before the scalper would pick up the ticket and everybody lost except for the scalper, now if that changes hand, everybody wins, and that's how I feel like a society should be. Like
Yeah.
removing the singular sort of like just I don't know, nature of greed and distributing it amongst
Yeah.
everybody that's part of it. Like the time that you spend is worth money. If you go
Absolutely.
onto what Facebook, it's worth money. Sorry, but the time that you're spending on Facebook, it's worth money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you could start to see the value of your time, you'll start to see
Yeah.
potentially how you create value of that time.
Well, and if you really want to monetize that time that you're spending in your socials, you can go and you can use something like Brave Browser,
Yeah.
and you can get your some BAT, and BAT is listed on most major exchanges, so it has monetary value to the U.S. dollar, and I really appreciate that, and that's something that Holoride is kind of doing as well,
Yeah.
where your time is valuable, and they're gonna reward you for what time you spend in there when you have your monetization, I guess is the only word I can come up with, for when you have it turned on. You can
Right.
turn your monetization off and you can just do your work. You can watch your movie, you can watch your podcast, do whatever. But if you turn your monetization on, you're going to be getting value back from your time that, you're seeing ads, you're participating in whatever it is that somebody else is
Exactly.
putting out there as a monetized item. And that's
Yep.
just, it's really, really big. I love it. I really
It's going to
do.
be, yeah. And that's why with everything I am, we're figuring this out just I think as much as everybody else is and what our life looks like here. And I think the more that I dream, the more that I see like, oh, that's absolutely, I could see myself absolutely helping here. I want
Hmm.
to help more than anything because, when I went and raged through and I made an NFT collection and I've done that stuff. And honestly, like I liked it, but I love and like helping people more than doing it myself. So
Absolutely.
just trying to figure out, how to
You know,
make that work as well.
do I make the joke of those who can't do teach? No, I absolutely believe that those
It,
who do well teach well, and
I mean,
sure.
I raged through it and did it in, like right away. And I'm watching people just now to like, how do I NFT? And I'm like, okay, I'm not smarter than you. It's just the way that I learned through it. Right.
Yeah,
And so, yeah,
we're
I'm with you on
definitely,
that.
people who like to do things and trial by fire and learn as
Yes.
we fuck up, as we
Yes.
sit here with
Yes.
inaudible podcasts and such.
Can I tell you, like, I've never actually had an accidental like connection of somebody else to my wallet or anything yet. But I will tell you, I was like, I thought it had happened and I was like this close. And I'm like, oh, well, learn my lesson. You know what I mean? Like, cause I almost logged into a, a false version of a real website.
Oh
And
no.
oh, yeah, almost. It was like, it was perfect looking,
Yeah.
perfect. I think there was maybe one tiny mistake in the error in the web address or just something that maybe I made, but
Yeah.
like, yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm never typing in the web address again. I'm just going to go from the actual link of where I know it's safe to click from, like the actual person that's, providing it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a lot. It's normal like
Yeah.
to just rage through sometimes, but
Yeah.
failure is normal, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In crypto, there is failure. You just learn from it and you
Yeah.
move forward and you move
Yeah.
on, or
We
you
all lose
learn from
money.
somebody else's failure.
And we're
Learn from
happy to
this
be
one.
that failure that you guys are learning from.
Exactly.
So tune in every week, Tuesday,
To watch
Wednesday,
us
and
fail.
Friday to learn from our failures. That's that's
Exactly.
that's gonna be on the next thumbnail. Learn from our failures.
Learn from our failure. I mean, because I don't mind failing, and I think
Yeah,
there's something actually that gives me like this little feeling of power in failure.
right.
And that might seem crazy, but I think you sound like it. Maybe there's just a level of risk that we like to take. I don't know what it is, but I'm happy. Like if y'all send us say, hey, what about this? We'll feel through it. We'll figure it out. Like,
Right.
you know, I'll go read the white paper. Like,
Yeah, we have the
we'll try to
time and
make a
energy.
transaction. I don't care, whatever it is, but
Yeah.
that's the fun of it.
Dude, I'll sit there and I'll put $5 into some new random wallet to try some new random DeFi project or NFT project or whatever,
Yeah.
Um, God, and that's something I guess we can talk about here, as one of our educational bits is like, what is it that when you go and you find a new NFT project, what are your criteria that you are going through and deciding, okay, this is something I do want to be involved in? Where's the line in the sand? Where is it that you decide the value is there enough and you trust this project enough? Like,
Hmm.
how do you decide that personally?
Well, I think I started to create a document because for me, there's too many questions to ask um, at the forefront
Mm-hmm.
that not writing them down and using it as a checklist to go through it meant that there's a possibility that I was going to fail on the onset.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. Like I always go to Twitter, and I look to see how often are they tweeting, how many people are actually do they have as followers, how many people are actually interacting with their tweets, do they okay, and then I'll go do a bot review of their Twitter, and then I'll go to their Discord, and then
Yep.
I'll go look at it. Depends on what it is. Now if it's a coin, I'm a white paper reader. I will read your white paper, I will dissect it, I will blow it apart, and then I'll call it a sales document because that's usually what it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
not actually a white paper. There's a big difference if you're familiar.
Or a
Um,
business plan or whatever you want to call it.
if you've got a roadmap, I'm in your roadmap dissecting every single piece of your roadmap because from a risk perspective, I can tell when you're adding excessive risk to the
Mm-hmm.
project that is unnecessary.
Okay.
So that's part of my analysis. And so I'd love to go through that maybe in a short form segment we can do or something, because if you've seen it, I've got, you know, three different ways, I believe, three different topics in how I analyze whether or not I feel like it's a trusted project and it's worth my money.
Yeah.
And now this is actually like me investing in it. Like maybe I'll throw 5 or 10 or $15 into something that I know could be like pure risk, but that's the risk that I'm going to take with that one.
Nice.
If it's
Okay.
something that I really want to look into, I definitely 100%. But I would say on a sliding scale of paranoid, I'm always going to lean on paranoid because I've been part of a lot. I've seen a lot of NFT projects, and I've been part of a lot of some
Hmm.
successful and some not. And I know
Yeah.
why they failed, and I know why they succeeded. And I think those lessons help shape your decision making.
Okay.
What about you?
Um, well, and I get approached by tons of these people, in Discord channels. Most of my Discord channels, for any kind of public NFT or crypto channel, I'll have my DMs turned off. I don't want people just DMing me all the time about bullshit. Um, but most of these come from LinkedIn actually, because my LinkedIn's pretty open right now due to the fact that I'm job hunting. So I
Hmm.
get lots of messages here and there, and most of the time people will offer, they'll be like, hey, do you want to hear about an opportunity, and I'll give them this list. My list it's a pretty short one
Oh yeah,
too.
that's right. I've seen your little
You
list. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very short list. It's is your team docs? Well, I want to know who's working on this project. I want to know their names, I want to see their faces, I want to know their Twitter accounts, who they've
Yep.
worked for.
Yep.
If you are going to go work
What's
for
their
any
LinkedIn?
company, yeah, what's their LinkedIn? Show me. Can I talk to them? Can I
Hmm.
physically send them a message and get a human response?
Hmm.
Um, you know, do they have Medium articles up? Medium articles written by possibly somebody else that is not part of the project. Um, you know, 2 or 3 Medium articles that really go into and talk about their project. Not that you can't just go on Medium and type up whatever you want, but it's generally got this better stigma of, it's kind of a more real thing. It's these people are actually getting after it and talking about their project.
Hmm.
Um, do they have any good YouTube um, videos with interviews with the team, talking to any kind of reputable other person? It doesn't have to be a YouTube streamer. I know. It's just somebody who is somewhat reputable. They go
Yeah.
through and talk to anyone else about anything else. Even just like what you and I are doing. Have they
Hmm.
done anything with somebody else?
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of one of the three biggest things that I really want from these people. And then the last thing, and this one gets kind of, I'm not always like crazy, about it, but like, show me your white paper. Let's see what it is. Show me your white paper. Let's do this, you know?
Yep.
And I will go through and read it. I
First, why
will
did you
find the
choose the
holes.
chain you chose?
Yep.
Why did you even choose ETH? Why did you even choose Cardano? Why did
Yeah.
you even choose Solana? Why did you even choose, all these like,
Right.
yeah, why did you like, I think there's a lot but then there's this whole wild, wild west nature of people just putting stuff out there. And I know people are making money off of it,
Oh, yeah.
but
And,
that's
and
like,
good for them.
if right. But if you're like maybe more like us and you like to assess your risk schedule or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah, I think it's having a really good set of principles behind why you're investing in it.
Hmm.
It's important.
Yeah.
I was actually in one last September, one of the first NFT projects I ever invested in. I saw it was going downhill before it went downhill
Sure.
because the promises that were being made by the NFT, the owners of the NFT, were not starting to come to fruition. And they weren't falsifying anything, but they just weren't good at it. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? So
Yes.
therefore, they didn't understand the marketing aspect. They didn't understand how to keep people engaged and organized towards like trying to create shared value. I mean, I see
Yeah.
NFTs as an asset. And if I'm going to get in your asset, you better try to create a value for me being in your asset. If not, why
Absolutely.
am I even here?
um,
You shouldn't even be creating assets if you have no intention to make a value for that's called a rug pull. It
yeah.
was literally called like I don't care if you're like, oh, I'll do this project for like 6 months and then walk away from it. Nope. Sorry. If
Yeah.
you make an NFT, that's your investment. Like you're saying I want to create value for you, these
Well,
investors.
even if you do want to walk away from it in 6 months, that needs to be put out front. You know,
That's exactly right.
if
That's
you want to
exactly
put
right.
out a piece of 6 pieces of art and be like, hey,
Yep.
this is just all I'm
This
doing,
is
this
it.
is my art, that's the whole thing. All right, cool. That's a thing. that is definitely a thing. And if you are making great art, I'll buy it for the same reason I buy a poster. You know,
That
because
I may not ever see that value come back, and that is
yeah,
actually exactly right. I mean, so setting a good standard for how you expect people to treat it. Do you want it to treat it as an asset to where you're going to have shield value? Do you want it to just treat it as a donation in some form? And or
right,
do you want it to treat, or do you want it to treat it as like you're paying for my services of creating this art? Like I think we need to be like real clear about how it is that we're treating these projects.
absolutely. And that's kind of something that gets talked about on a lot of the Twitter spaces I spend time in. One of the last big things that I'll talk to anyone about when I'm talking about a new NFT project, especially if they come at me, if they come shilling at me, expect to bring your A game. Expect me to like think that you're
Yep.
bullshit right away. And I don't like treating people like that, but at the same time, like I'm not sitting on LinkedIn to get shilled about, some new project. I'm sitting on
Right.
LinkedIn to make business happen. And that's what I'm there for. So I'm going to come at you like a businessman, and um I'm going to ask you, what is it that you are gaining by shilling me this? Are you the person making this project? Are you getting a commission? I want to know why
Yep.
you're taking time out of your day and coming to me. And
Yep.
do you see me as just a bag of money sitting on LinkedIn or what? Like that's not how this works. It is my job to go out and figure these things out so that other people don't fall into the pit hole, because I'm willing
Right.
to poke my head in the pit hole and shine a flashlight down there and say, hey,
Oh,
hey,
me
look,
too.
there are
Yeah.
spikes down there. Don't
Yeah.
get giardia.
Yeah, they call what we're the scouts. We'll be the scouts of the group. We'll just go scout
Absolutely.
ahead. We'll take our little lights. We'll go scout ahead. We'll
Yeah.
see how everything's going up in front of you, and then you just keep behind.
Yeah.
Not saying you have to be behind, but I don't mind being a scout. I'm happy to be a scout. I think
Yeah.
it's fun in video games and it's fun in real life. And
It is. I'm all about it. I really am. But well, what else should we go into? That was actually a pretty educational little bit there. And that's kind of what we're supposed to be about here on the podcast. And, may not call it wash trade, but for day, maybe it was a wash. Maybe it wasn't. What do I know?
we'll call it a wash until we get it right, and then
Yeah.
it'll move from like wash to something
Yeah.
more
But I
like a
will tell
stick
you
of
this, none of this conversation is a taxable event.
It's true.
So,
And
at
you
least
learned
yeah.
maybe something.
Yeah, hopefully everybody has learned something, and we did pretty good today. We're still kind of working on the structure of the show, and I totally kind of glanced over my Miami coin topic, but we did a
Oh, that's
whole lot of
great.
good chatting
That's
about
a
all
totally
sorts of good
different
things.
subject because I want to talk about cities getting into crypto. Because I'm very interested in this
All
concept.
right, let's go into it.
Um,
Let's do another like
let's
10,
yeah,
10
let's set
minutes
it
until
for
12:15, and let's kind of get into that
okay.
topic real quick. Let me go over this article a little bit. After
Okay.
$5 million disbursement, Miami Coin is the first city to withdraw funds from its treasury. So Mayor Suarez, mayor of City of Miami, took 5.25 million disbursement from Miami Coin wallet. So they're actually using some of their profit, or whatever you want to call it.
That's what
Um,
I'm saying. How do you I would like to see whether or not, I mean,
so
is
on
it
his,
profit or is it
I'd have to look more into the coin itself.
yeah.
But so what the tweet here says from Mayor Francis
Because aren't you
Suarez.
taking value out of the okay, so like if it's a coin, here's the thing. If it's a coin, are you actually ever making a profit on the coin? You're actually just taking value away from the coin. Every
Okay,
single time you remove value from a coin, you're taking value out of the coin, right? Like
so yes
so
and no. If Are they burning
let's talk
coins when they take things out, or are they
hmm
just selling it on the open market?
right, right.
And
Well,
so
right.
then, who's holding those coins? Who's paying for that value? What exchanges are they using? How are they taxing this?
Yeah, there's a lot
Does
of questions.
Miami as a city have to deal with capital gains tax? Which, if you and I were to do the same thing, because we are not a city, a governmental entity, we would be taxed. And so, should that be taxed, or are they just using donations? You know,
Yeah, it's so I would almost need to read up on that even more
yeah.
because an entire city. I kind of don't know how they set up. They set up their own coin, or did they? That
They
I guess
actually
I didn't actually
produce
catch that
their
part.
own coin. I
But that was the
believe it was
smartest way to do
on
it.
somebody else's network. Um, so we'd actually have to take a look at that. And Miami coin crypto. Let's just have a look here. So, how do we even get some Miami coin? Let's go over to CoinGecko and have a look-see.
Yeah, Miami coin on you can buy it on OKCoin.
You can't. Okay, I did see that briefly. MIA. Oh,
City
wow.
coins.
Poor
Oh,
choice
there's
of.
citycoins.co.
There we go.
Oh,
Yeah, so they mentioned
Miami
on
coin
City
gives
Coins, I
citizens
believe.
supporters the power to support and improve program the magic. Oh, they're mining. Hold on. Okay, yeah, I would have to read a lot more into this. I would have to see how people are mining, and then the miners. It's on Bitcoin.
So it's a
Okay,
Bitcoin fork, or it's on the.
it's a Bitcoin. City coins are powered by Stacks, a protocol that enables smart contracts on the Bitcoin network.
Interesting. Yep, Stack
Yeah,
Protocol.
it's
Huh. Interesting. This is definitely something we're going to have to read into a little more.
70% of mining rewards are distributed to people who choose to stack their Miami coin. Oh, interesting.
FAQ.
So the concept of this is so interesting because if you can make a mutually beneficial relationship between yourself and citizens, they're going to want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
If the city can
everyone's
make a
taking value.
mutually beneficial, exactly. But what we're so sick of is cities coming in and allowing these big, huge, gigantic companies, which aren't supposed to exist in this sort of capitalistic structure. That's a monopoly. Um, they allow these companies to come in and destroy the value of individuals, communities, and people simply for profit, which what I get it, that's capitalism. However, I mean, what if you could change the trajectory of your city and not make it so like all of these companies are coming in to destroy the city center and take away from the people that they're actually like finding a way to give back to the city and develop the city and develop its people. That to me would be much more interesting.
Okay. So here's what I'm kind of catching here from their actual website. This is in their FAQ. There are two functions of CityCoin, mining and stacking. And CityCoins are mined by forwarding STX, the stack token, to CityCoin smart contract stack protocol. 30% of STX miners forward the stacks protocol is sent directly to a wallet that is reserved for each city that is part of CityCoin's ecosystem. So they're getting 30% no matter what. Mayor of a city may elect any time to accept the reserved wallet to access the treasury for use by the city, which is exactly what Mayor Suarez is doing right now. And
so what? Yeah, tell me what was the reason for the use of them?
so what he is doing is we're using $5 million of those dollars to fund a rental assistance program for city residents who have experienced severe rent hikes. And so he's basically trying to combat the expansion of, or rather, what's the word I'm looking for?
So you think they're going to call this socialism?
You know what?
I'm just very curious because if they've ever thought for some wild reason in their mind that socialism was any sort of shared value, whether or not it's shared asset value, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, is it going to be socialism?
There are lots of people that would call it that.
How dare you take that money out of that pot? Like, I don't know. It gets so weird. Like, no offense to I didn't mean to get all political, but
no. I mean, at that point, you could call it something along the lines of, because basically what's happening is that people are investing in their own city, and
right,
so,
which is a very neat thing. In
it
a lot
really
of ways.
is. And if you are investing in your own city and you're getting value back,
benefit back,
but I mean, you could be getting the benefit in that monetary value of your mined coin, or you could be getting the benefit of a better society around you, which then brings in money. If your city is nicer and everything like that, then All of a sudden people are going to want to come and they're going to want to spend money
Isn't
and
that
live
amazing?
there. Um,
Hold on. You mean my sociology class was right? You mean the prosperity for all is actually a good thing?
oh my God, it could be. Who knows?
Hold
We
on. You mean like if people aren't always poor and homeless all the time because of capitalism, I mean that's a bad thing? Like for our
right?
entire like city? Yes, it is.
Yeah, if
It
people are
absolutely
able
is.
to live a healthy life and
Yep.
they aren't struggling just to feed themselves, they're going to prosper, and the
Imagine.
people around them might prosper as well due to their prosperity, because that's exactly what happens. These
Absolutely.
people are taking excess funds from their own treasuries, and they're providing it to the city to then improve the lives of everyone around them. And while I don't know if you'd call that socialism, you could definitely call it capitalist investment in your neighbor, you know because
That's a
that's
good way
what.
to put it.
Yeah, because they're investing themselves.
I'm glad because I don't want them to think of it that way. I guess that's why I brought it up because I would rather them think about it in a way that's
It's voluntary socialism is what it is, rather than you're being forced to give taxes and then that's going back out. you know People are volunteering their funds to
and in
other
doing
people.
so they could get there could be a benefit, a mutual benefit from
Yeah,
that. So yeah,
yeah, it's a great idea. I did like the idea of
it's
city
so
coin from the
neat. Yeah.
inception, but it definitely requires a lot more looking into. I just really
Yeah, lots
appreciate
of looking into.
Mayor Suarez being so forward thinking, and I think Phoenix is going to be doing something similar here soon. But who knows? I don't know why they aren't mining
Well,
the
I live in
crap out of
Texas,
Bitcoin over
so give
there.
it another 75 years.
Yeah, Texas is somewhat forward thinking. I've
No,
been
they're not.
finding as far as God, what was it? I just was no, they. I
I'm
I
sorry.
I don't
There's nothing
disagree.
forward about
I
Texas.
I don't disagree, but I just was
It's
hearing that,
backwards.
like, they were having people come in and speak to um, God, what is the people that represent Texas called? I'm totally blanking on that.
Representatives?
Yeah, so
Senators?
they had people come in and talk to the senators and the representatives of Texas about cryptocurrencies and answering their questions, so that they could continue being a little more forward thinking. Yeah, I agree. Texas is a little bass backwards, but you know,
I mean, I'm still waiting for the cancel culture to stop around here, and it's not stopping. It's going
yeah.
hard, going real strong, and there's just cancel. It's like, can I smoke weed? No. Can I get power during the winter during a storm?
Oh
No.
God, isn't that still supposed to
Uh,
happen again?
we just went through another light icing recently,
Yeah.
and then we had to boil water for 2 weeks.
How did I
It
miss
never
that?
ended. It is never ending down here. Like we've had to boil water 3 times in the past like it's a year and a half or something.
Dang, that's crazy. Y'all are supposed to be in the 21st century. Like,
No, no.
what's going on over there?
Oh, pure greed. Pure greed.
Hmm.
Pure greed is what's happening here.
Yeah.
Pure controlled greed. And the people that have had their hands out, like taking everybody's like hard-earned money for this long, are not really willing to give that up. I mean,
Yeah.
like not even to the point where they were like getting them to just get liquor on Sundays was like those sorts of things I
Oh,
don't get
geez.
either.
Yeah, I
But
forgot about that.
I no if I there's a lot of places in Texas that are neat, but I don't see them getting into crypto anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, you ever been to Jacob's Well outside of Austin?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, it's really cool. I suggest you look it up. It is one of the few parks that was. So not only do you have to schedule your visit in 2 hour blocks, you got to pay. It's like $8 a person, and you know what? It was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
That's very normal for down here. That's what I've learned
Really?
is that there's a lot
Okay.
of parks that you have to pay to go through. Um, there are, I think, is that a private park or is that a public? Do
So
you know?
what it
Do you
is,
remember?
and why it's charging money is that the land itself is private, and it is
That's right.
owned
Yeah.
by the landowners that share the property right in that area, and so because it's such a beautiful
They
spot,
want to,
they
yes,
just they want people to be able to experience it, but they don't want their property to get destroyed, and so like
it
there,
makes perfect
there's
sense. Yeah.
really specific rules about all of it and the parking and the timing. They don't want like a bajillion people there all at once, and yeah, so they do regulate it pretty closely.
Yep.
And
Makes
I
sense.
if people from Jake as well are listening, thank you for providing that land. And they spent their own money to refurbish the whole feature. And what it is, it's this kind of hole in the river that just goes down. And
Mm,
at one point, the silt and sand and rocks had filled it in. And so they went
mm.
through and they vacuumed all that out so that it was still a cave. And then built a retaining wall to prevent that from happening again. And so, the water all still flows back into it. And it's beautiful and it's pristine. The
Cool.
river's so nice to swim in, and it's hot out. It's just it's amazing. You can jump in there, you can dive 30 feet
Oh yeah, there's
down.
some great river rafting down here and swimming, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I'm all about it.
there's huge. There's so much water
Yeah,
doing
doings.
with water.
So anyway, I think that's about it for today. We
Okay.
have gone for a whole hour as far as my timer shows, and I think that's going to be it for Friday. So thank you very much for showing up and talking. And
Next
anybody
week,
who watched, click like and subscribe. We need the views and definitely need to get out there a little more. But yeah, we're happy to keep doing it for everyone.
practice, practice.
Yep. So all right,
All
Lisa.
right. Have a
Cheers.
great day.
Bye,
Follow,
everyone.
subscribe. Thanks for watching if you watched, and have a great one.
And boop.